We're rolling. All right, how's everyone doing? I'm Rich CELENZA. Thanks for checking out the Rich CELENZA show. I got the stalker with me again. Robert Benenati, he won't leave me alone.
Here I am.
Even though I'm in his office. I think it's the other way around. So what we're going to talk today about is eviction. Did I say that correctly? Eviction. And him being in real estate, I don't know if you know that, because lately we haven't been talking a lot about it, but Robert is a realtor. He owns 365 Realty in Orlando, Florida. And I wanted to touch upon this because I saw a couple things, and I also want to talk about what I went through when I had a home and trying to get rid of a renter. That was one of the biggest nightmares of my life. But let's kind of touch base here with Robert. Tell me kind of what you know. I don't need you to get into all the legalities, but right now a lot of people are not paying their rent and getting away with it. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, I think, are being told that if they do have a renter, they can't afford to pay it, that the government's going to help them, and that doesn't seem to be happening either.
Correct.
Do you see this with your rentals, with homeowners, with...
I've been lucky that I only had one case in the midst of the pandemic. The tenant reached out to me and said, listen, I've been laid off. I have some savings. How can we work this out? And we did. So one of the months that he did not pay, we stretched it over a couple months at a portion. You know, I think the rent was like $1,400 and he was paying $400 at a time. So it took him a couple months, you know. But I was lucky enough not to have to go through evictions, or I had one person that decided just to leave and move with the parents or something like that to avoid eviction and falling behind on rent. So I was lucky, but over the years, you know, evictions, you know, nobody wants to go through any of it.
On both ends.
Both ends. I mean, the landlord really doesn't want to go through that, and it's not convenient for the tenant to have to go through it because it's going to make it harder for that tenant to get accepted, future rental properties. Right, because they're going to run your credit, they're going to run your background, they're going to run your evictions. And if it pops up, you're going to have a hard time trying to get another unit. So I always recommend trying to working it out with the landlord. Okay, but we're talking about evictions in this time, right?
Right, during COVID.
During COVID and all these acts and, you know, assistance that they say they're going to help the landlords. It's tricky, you know. It's tough. It's tough for everyone. You know, I think they just lifted the moratorium for evictions. So you could do a 3-day. You can file new, or you can continue if you filed previously. Continue. Right. They'll pick that up, right, and take it from there. So you could do a 3-day notice of eviction, right, or payment. Or if it's under the HUD, it's a 30-day notice. So you have to see where you know where your property falls into. So,
yeah, I was watching on the news. I didn't even tell you this. That's why one of the reasons I want to do this podcast is because I saw a woman. She was in the Air Force and she's middle-aged, and I don't even know where she's from, but she had a few properties that she invested in throughout her life. Small, they're just very small. They almost look like manufactured homes. She has 3 of them, and 3 of those renters refuse to pay. Mm-hmm. And I think it's going on almost a year and a half here. And she knows they work. She knows they have jobs. They refuse to leave. The government isn't helping her. Not only she's going to be losing those 3 homes, which is interesting, because they're going to be foreclosing on those homes. They still get to stay there, at least for now. They're coming after her home, and she's a single mother.
Right.
Which is crazy if you think about this.
It's
crazy.
Not fair. It's not fair so much. You know, if you have a legitimate excuse, you're not really working, you're trying to get a job, or if you're receiving, you know, unemployment. And any kind of assistance, then I don't know, work something out with the landlord, right? But it's not fair for landlords that the law says that tenant doesn't have to pay the landlord, but the landlord has to pay his or her mortgage.
Yeah.
You know, it's tough.
That's brutal. One of the worst things that ever happened to me with real estate, I'll just say it very quickly. I owned a beautiful home in College Park, downtown Orlando, which was very nice, historic home on a third of an acre. And I was leaving for California, and the market 2008, 2009, as you know, was really shaky. And we thought we'd keep it. We're going to rent it. So me and my ex-wife, she runs into a lady, and or they apply, and this one lady comes to her and says she has a boyfriend, and she wants to know if we'll rent the house. A very nice lady, and I guess she's had some issues, and my ex-wife says, we should help this lady. We got to help her, right? So we get her in there. She pays first and last month's rent. She says she has in the boyfriend. In the first month, though, the boyfriend leaves. So we're thinking, okay, let's just figure this out. And believe me, I left the house mint. My 2 daughters live there, and both of them have health issues, so I always had to make sure it was mint. And I left them. I even left the lady the lighting. It had all new appliances, new hardwood floor in some areas. It's still a historic home. It was older. But it was very nice when we left it.
Very well taken care of.
Yeah, and in a really great area. Right off the bat, like after 3 months, she starts refusing to pay rent. And at first, we're trying to work with her. Before you know it, she refuses to pay rent, claiming it's what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you can't live there.
Inhabitable.
Inhabitable, right? And we're like, how can it be that? And you stay there. Like, you can't have it both ways. Now, we're trying to figure out, all of a sudden, she's like, I have a pest control problem. We're like, we could take care of that. I'm having this problem. But then after a while, we're like, we aren't going to keep paying for upgrade. You can't even pay your rent. Right. So she gets a lawyer involved, and we can't get her out, to make a long story short, for like a year and a half, 2 years. And not only that, we got to pay the mortgage. The mortgage got to be paid. Not only that, the state is hitting us up because she's not keeping the grounds, the grass, anything else.
The landscaping, the lawn. And
we're getting fined there. And again, even the judges are letting her stay there for a substantial amount of time. Plus, she's destroying our home.
Did you get a lawyer?
That's the other thing. So we have to get a lawyer now. Mm-hmm. Now we're paying for our lawyer. This is what gets really crazy. We also we're just checking out driving past the home. She couldn't afford her electricity anymore. She has pets, again, destroying everything. So we finally get her out of there after a couple of years. Her lawyer, who supposedly was a friend of hers, sues us for all her legal fees, which was like $15,000, put a lien on the home. So now we can't even sell it. So then we had to go, to make a long story short, we ended up getting that removed, but we fought that forever. So us trying to help somebody.
Yeah, it could be a nightmare.
It was the worst probably couple years of my life as far as that goes.
I always recommend, if you're going to be a landlord and thinking of getting into that business of renting homes, as an investment and passive income, I would say retain a good attorney.
Yeah.
Sit with them, pay them a couple hours of their consultation fees.
Right.
Ask them the questions that you need to know, right?
Yeah.
Prior to renting all these homes that you have, or whatever, one or two, or how many you have. Kind of get educated in what you have to look out for. Have them write a lease for you that all you have to do is fill in the blanks, right? So you have him on retainer. You don't need him, but do pay the consultation. Have him prepare you and be ready, right?
Yeah.
And then if anything does happen and you need to evict someone, then you can move forward with them. To evict someone it's not hard.
Yeah.
But it's tricky.
Yeah.
One technical mistake on a paper, on one of the notices or anything from the landlord, they put the wrong number, the wrong amount, the wrong address, the wrong zip code.
And if they get a lawyer involved too.
You do incorrectly and you take that to the court to start the eviction, it could get kicked back and you have to start all over again.
Yep.
So, or you know what you're doing, or get someone that knows how to do an eviction correctly. That's that with evictions.
I think at that point in time, though, too, they didn't want to evict, kind of like now. 2008, 2009, 2010, as you know, the renter had almost more rights than the owner once they got in that home. And even people that had mortgages weren't leaving their home for X amount of years, that were filing bankruptcy or foreclosure.
To a certain point, I mean, you can evict someone and 3 weeks, 4 weeks, if you do it accurately and they don't have a leg to stand on, right? But if it's really a situation, for example, a lot of tenants say, well, I'm not paying the rent because there's a leak in the bedroom and the water's falling on my bed, or in the bathroom, or there's a big situation, right? Something's not working properly, something's broken and needs attention, repairs. The tenant cannot just stop paying the rent, right? Most do.
Yeah.
They just stop paying the rent and kind of put pressure on the landlord.
Yeah.
And then the landlord goes ahead and files an eviction.
Yep.
Because of non-payment. And then as a tenant, you find yourself in a situation now because he's ahead of you now. Right? Even though you're in your right because he's not taken care of, but the way to do it is different. The way to do it is, if you really have a problem as a tenant, okay, and this goes out for the tenants that have this situation happening, go ahead, go to the court, file that complaint, pay the rent to the court. The court will hold that and then cite the landlord and say, okay, if he tries to do an eviction, he says, we have your rent, you need to take care of this first. Because the rent is paid, not to the landlord, but to the court.
Right.
Now, the landlord is
kind of almost
forced.
like an escrow.
Correct.
Almost.
Yeah. So that's the way of, and a lot of tenants don't know this, but that's really the way to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's smart.
And that puts a lot of pressure on the landlords because there's a lot of slumlords out there that don't take care of properties. Okay.
Of course.
So, there's good landlords and bad landlords.
Absolutely.
There's good tenants and bad tenants.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
So just the system works. You have to know on which side you're playing and what you're doing.
And it's crazy now, let's face it. I mean, different laws change depending on where you're at as well. We're talking what kind of happens in Florida maybe, and
New
somewhere
York
else.
is totally different.
Yeah, totally different.
If it's winter and they have kids and they extend that and it goes on for months, sometimes a year, it's tough. Yeah. So
yeah, it's not easy. There's no
that's what I'm
question
saying.
about that.
Get a retainer, get a lawyer, and it's gonna, in the long run, it's gonna cost you less.
Yeah, that's with most likely anything. Even in the entertainment business, if you have a lawyer you got to have some legal representation before you do anything during and after. In my
Whatever
opinion.
it's going to cost you, if that tenant stays in that house for longer than 2-3 months, you're already losing a lot of money. At that point, there's no way of making it up.
No, because they don't have the money to usually come back and pay you anyways.
Yeah, and at the end they're going to walk out, but they're going to walk out and make you spend so much money and time is money, because now if you have a mortgage on it and you're still paying, it's money you're never going to make back. So, nip it at the butt quickly. Just get it over with. Pay the attorney, and there's flat fee attorneys. There's others that work by the hour. So figure it out. Look for someone, and pay the retainer.
There also seems to be like two different rules. If you've ever rented an apartment in an apartment complex or something, when you don't pay the rent there, they're throwing your ass out, changing the locks, and it's over. Fast. And if you even come, I think, I never had this happen, but I think even the cops come. If you try, like when you're not paying rent, they give you a certain amount of time and it is over. But it does seem like if you're an independent landlord, that you have to go through a lot more things. Now, I don't know if it's because of the contract or...
No, property, buildings with a lot of apartments, they just have an attorney on board. And they can't just change the locks on you. That's not...
I thought if you don't pay after 30 or 60 days, they come in... They evict you, or
they have to do an eviction, get a writ of possession where you get the property back. If you do get that, then at that point, a deputy comes out, police, make sure that they go open the door. There's no altercations, and a couple things. Sometimes you have to empty the home of all the furniture, but you some cities. You have to put all the furniture in storage for 30 days.
Gotcha.
You can't put it on the curb.
Right.
Other places, you just put it out on the curb, and that's your problem. Like Florida, you just put it out on the curb. That's it.
It's crazy.
New York, I think you have to put it in storage for 30 days, pay for that. After 30 days, then you can get rid of it or,
That's crazy. When we used to do the vending business and we had a lot of bars or establishments go out of business, a couple things would happen. One, they would come in and lock the door again on them, and they couldn't get into their establishment anymore, and they had the police. But the thing was, our equipment was in there.
Yeah, but that's commercial.
That's commercial, absolutely.
That's different.
Oh, for sure. But
that's fast.
Oh, yeah. And what's amazing is a lot of times we'd have to get there very quickly to prove that equipment was ours because they want to loop it into their debt. And if you're talking billiards tables, jukeboxes, and all these things, not only that, just to get in there was a hassle. Not only that, a lot of times when people were getting evicted, they would try to steal all our shit.
Oh, they're going to take it with them.
They're going to take all our shit with them. So,
and then blame the landlord and say, well, the landlord kept it.
Exactly, or who the hell knows? It's crazy. Anyways, I just thought I would throw my 2 cents in on that one.
All right, that was a good one.
That was a good one, buddy. All right. Any questions or comments? Actually, hit Robert up on this with 365 Realty. I can't help you.
Yeah, look us up. 365realtyinc.com is the website, or 365 Realty across social media anywhere.
Yeah, for sure. Hit him up. Or if you like cigars, come by Restaurant Row. He's right above Corona Cigar.
Yeah, we'll sit down, have a cigar. And coffee.
Coffee, the whole 9 yards. Mm-hmm. All right. Take care, everyone.